Hey, today we're going to set up a really simple turn relay server using an AWS Lightsail instance to help you get NDI Remote working with connections outside of your network. Okay, so the first thing you want to do is get AWS account created. Go ahead and get logged in, and then once you're in the management console, we're going to click Services, and right here we're going to choose Lightsail. That's going to bring us into the Lightsail homepage, which looks like this. And the first thing we're going to want to do is click Create Instance. Now here you have a couple of options. You can make sure you're in, it's probably going to auto detect which zone you should be in. For me, I use the Oregon Zone A, but you can change that depending on what area of the world you're in. Now it's going to ask you to pick your instance image. We're going to choose a Linux/Unix image, and then we're going to choose OS only because that's all we care about is the operating system, and we're going to choose Ubuntu 20.04 LTS. You can scroll past all this other stuff, choose your instance plan. We really just need a very simple server, so we're just going to use the smallest instance here for $3.50 a month, and then identify your instance. You can give it whatever name you want. For this video we're going to do NDI-test, and then click Create Instance, and that will take us right back to the home page, and you'll see that our new instance is there. It might come up in a pending state, and if that's the case, just give it a few minutes and it will be ready and say running. And once you're in this state where it says that the instance is running, we're ready to do some configurations. Now, there's a couple of ways to connect to an AWS instance. You can set up a console using the program of your choice. And if you're interested in that, there's instructions built into AWS. For today's video, just to keep things very simple, we're just going to use the built-in console that's right here in AWS. So you can just click this button and it's going to open a console in another web browser window, and it's going to look just like this. So the first thing that we want to do is enable the built-in firewall in Ubuntu. So to do that, you're just going to type sudo ufw status, and that's going to show us that the status currently is inactive. So then next we're going to type sudo ufw allow SSH. Hit enter. That's going to add the rules for SSH. While we're here, we might as well open the ports that the turn server is going to need. So we can type sudo ufw allow 3478, sudo ufw allow 49152 colon 65535 /UDP. And now if we look at the, and then we're going to run sudo ufw enable, and that's going to give us a warning that this might disrupt your existing connections, but we're going to be okay, so just say yes, and you can see we're still connected. And then let's look at the status again, so sudo ufw status, and you can see we've got a rule here for SSH. We've got a rule here for the turn server, and another rule for the turn server ports that it's going to need, the range of ports that it's going to need in UDP. This rule is enabled, the 3478 should be enabled for TCP and UDP. And then below that, these are the IPv6 duplicates of those same rules. Okay, next we need to install a package called CoTurn, which is an open source stun server and turn server. So to do that, we're just going to issue the command sudo apt update to refresh the list of available packages from the servers. And once that is finished, there you go. We're going to do sudo apt install CoTurn. Just say yes to the prompts. It's going to download the package and install it for us. Very simple. If you've never done Linux administration before, it's really not that hard once you kind of get the hang of it. All right, so now CoTurn is installed. We just need to make a few configuration changes and we'll be good to go. So the first thing we want to do is enable CoTurn so that it starts when the server starts. To do that, we're just going to edit a file by issuing this command, sudo nano /etc/ default/CoTurn, and hit enter. And all you need to do is arrow down to this line that says turn server enabled and delete that hashtag or # depending on what age you're from, and that will uncomment the line. And then you're going to hit Control O to write the file, and then you hit enter after that, and then Control X to close. And now we're back at our command line. You can give it a clear to freshen things back up. Okay, so now CoTurn will start when the server starts. And the next thing we need to do is edit the configuration file for CoTurn. We do that by typing sudo nano /etc/coturn.turnserver.conf. Now you can go through this file if you want and read about all the different things and options that we need to enable. What I'm going to do is just add my section in here right at the top, and if you want you can comment this and say my config, and if you want to be really snazzy you can put the date in there. The options that we need to turn on are the following. We're going to put in fingerprint, user equals, and you can specify the credentials that you want to use for people to be able to connect. This gives you some control on who's able to connect to the server. So for our purposes today, we're going to use NDI test, and we'll say password 123. So that's the format. You put the user and then a colon and then the password that you would like. Next, we're going to do lt-cred-mech. This is the long-term credential mechanism. It's telling the TURN server that we want to have a mechanism in place for people to authenticate. Realm, again, is part of the authentication. In fact, I think these first 4 options are all to do with authentication. So you could just put in, whatever your domain name is. I'm just going to put yourdomain.com. And then log file, we're specifying where we want the log file to go, equals /var/log/turnserver/turnserver.log. And then we're telling it we want a simple log structure. And then we're going to give it our external IP. Now this part is important. External-IP equals. To get this, we can look back at our home screen in AWS, in Lightsail, and your public IP is right here. Now, for the sake of this test, I'm not going to get fancy with changing anything here. But if you're going to use this long term, you can actually go into the networking section of AWS and add a static IP and assign it to this instance, and then that will never change. If the server reboots or anything like that, you'll have a static IPv4 address. So we need 35.163.134.17, and we're going to enter that into this external IP field in the config. And that's it. So now we're going to hit Control O to write the file, and Control X to exit. And you can type clear if you're OCD like me. And then we just need to restart the service. So we're going to type sudo service coturn restart. And the server is configured. Now, one last thing that we need to do is open those rules on the AWS side of things as well. So we're going to go ahead and close out of our console. You can just issue an exit command, and we're going to go back to the AWS home screen and click the little menu and say manage for your instance. We're going to go to the networking tab, and again here you can see your IPv4 address. I'm not hiding this today because I'm going to delete this instance as soon as the video is done, so don't even waste your time trying to connect to it. But now after IPv4, or under the IPv4 firewall section, we're going to go ahead and say add rule. We're going to add those same rules that we did in the Linux firewall. So it's kind of overkill. We're having double firewalls here, but hey, protection is good, right? So we're going to add port 3478 and just click create. Another rule, and this one is going to be UDP, and it's a range, so you're going to do 49152 dash or hyphen 65535, create, and that's it. Everything is configured. Okay, well that wasn't quite true. Almost everything was configured, but in AWS, you need to specify rules for port 3478 on both TCP and UDP for it to work correctly. So make sure you add both those rules. Your firewall configuration in AWS should look like this picture when you're done. All right, so now we're going to jump into the NDI Tools application and open Remote. So first thing we want to do is configure our TURN relay server by clicking this little gear right here. And for the server URL, we're going to put in TURN : and the IP address of the server that we just created in Lightsail, which in our case was 35.163.134.17. You can see the port there that we opened is there. We're going to say this server requires credentials, and the username that we set up was NDI test, and it was password 123 for the password, and we're going to confirm that password 123. And then it's very important that you click this box up here. It's kind of illogical in my opinion, but you need to make sure that you check the box at the top. It's easy to miss. So then once that's selected and all the information is put in, we're going to hit apply. It's going to warn us that when you enable this, it's going to basically revoke all the connections if you had previous connections going over your Wi-Fi network. And now we're just going to go ahead and enable remote connection 1. Now there's a couple ways you could send the link out to people. You can open this to kind of get the QR code, or you can send them this link and you can copy that to your clipboard just by clicking the button, or you can send an email there. You can also, if you have this show QR code on video option selected, when you hit this guide to open NDI Remote, it's gonna start an NDI Remote or an NDI Studio instance viewing that remote source, and if there's nothing connected, it's going to show you the QR code. Now what I'm going to do is on my cell phone, I'm going to turn off my Wi-Fi and I'm going to scan that QR code and open in Safari this link, and it should connect over LTE. Okay, so you can see on the phone that we are on LTE, only 2 bars of LTE for that. I'm going to go ahead and open the camera application. I'm going to scan that link, and it's going to open in Safari and ask me if it can use the microphone and camera. When I say allow, there you can see me. And if I flip this thing around, you can see that it's made the connection successfully. All right, I hope that's helpful. If you have any questions or run into any problems, feel free to leave a comment. And if you've got any really killer ideas on how you're going to use NDI Remote, share those in the comments too, because I'm really curious to see how people are going to use this tool.